Hello and welcome to Smart Money. I'm Alishia Seckam. Well, Jorge Mendes is a seasoned C-suite executive with a proven track record of success in driving company growth and profitability. So with close to 30 years of experience in the telecommunications industry, does he have what it takes to turn things around at Cell C? He took over the reins roughly 10 months ago and seems to have hit a reset button of sorts. He joins us now. George, thanks so much for joining us today. And I'm going to jump straight into things. Talk us through the transition. Of course, the executive role, all too familiar to you. So more so transitioning from one South African telecoms operator to another, and the kind of opportunities you're capitalizing on for Cell C in particular.
Yeah, thanks, Alishia. Thanks for having me. I mean, some people would say to me, I'm mad having left the number one player and going to the number four player that's been in financial distress and has had difficult times for a long period, actually, to be brutally honest. But that's what excites me. The excitement is really the challenge of fixing something or building something. And we all know that it has been through an extremely rough and difficult time, Cell C. There lies the challenge. I think it's all about creating an amazing culture, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I think there's ingredients that Cell C's got that can create a unique positioning in the market that I think will be a differentiator that will take place and will allow us to grow in a sustainable way. So it's not about building another telco that exists, whether it's another Vodacom, another MTN, another telecom. No, not at all. We want to build a unique Cell C with a real customer centricity model. And we've got ingredients that are fundamentally different, and they'll show up that way. So in no time at all, these things will start surfacing as we've been building in the background.
Yeah, we'll get into the detail of that in just a bit. Before we do, to what extent are your business stabilization efforts yielding improved results? And, is it enough to actually see Cell C, George, on solid enough financial footing to meaningfully compete in South Africa's telecom space?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the journey will be probably a 3 to 5 year journey. So this is not a quick fix. There's no immediate miracles and tablets that you can take in the morning and voila, it's all sorted out. I wish it worked that way, but it doesn't. So it's a lot of hard work and effort. We've got a very clear strategy. But in the 10 months so far, I'm really, really pleased with the efforts of the team and how we've delivered on those strategic pillars. So I think the progress we've made is quite significant. We've taken out a significant amount of cost. We have almost completed building a full team with capability to really execute on our strategy. We've done some commercial things tactically that are yielding some good results. So we've stopped the bleeding. Revenue is on the up, costs are on the down. So EBITDA is improving. Culture is improving every day. And again, it's an authenticity, and it's something that you have to live and do every day. So no one's watching a movie and then afterwards they're excited and everything's fixed. No one's reading a book and after that everything's fixed. It's stuff that we do, breathe and live every single day, and the actions are yielding the results. So far I'm quite pleased with all the KPIs trending in the right direction.
So let's take a look at how all of that then filters through to your network strategy. I mean, how does your network strategy differentiate you in the market? That's what you alluded to at the top. I mean, everyone's talking leveraging technology and innovation. So, how different is your playbook?
Well, simply put, if you want to compete in this market in South Africa, you need 10 billion rand a year on capex. If you want to compete with number one and number two, 10 billion rand. If we had to get funding of circa 30 to 40 billion rand, we would play catch up and we could invest 30 to 40 billion and be on par with Vodacom and MTN. And no sooner are we on par, they're not standing still, and you're another 10 billion behind because you have to continue investing. That strategy clearly is not one that we think will work. Having said that, when you look at sharing on technology, more and more has gone from passive sharing to now active sharing. I think we've struck a model that will become a catalyst globally, where I think where you got certainly markets that are saturated, and you've got more than two players, I think player 3, 4, and 5 will start going into the same view of this kind of strategic intention on the network side that we have, or there'll have to be market consolidation in totality. So we've chosen the latter. So we've gone from spending X billion on building our own infrastructure to buying world-class services for the same amount. So we've swapped capex for opex. We still have the same margins. And effectively, we become the two biggest players, biggest customers. So we switch from building our own network to buying services from player 1 and 2 with a like-for-like quality of service. And it allows us to then focus on the commercial things that are customer-centric. So running the network is being outsourced. Someone does it and someone does it really well, player 1 and player 2. We take that money, we swap it to OPEX, and we focus on trying to make really customer-centric propositions out there that will deliver what we think is success ultimately.
So extrapolate on that a bit for us, because I mean you've spelt out kind of what this means for you as a buyer of these network services, right? What does this mean for your customers? How do they feel it?
Well, ultimately they'll get the experience that a Vodacom customer will get on the Vodacom network, and they'll get an experience that the MTN customer will get on the MTN network. And then with what we call MOCN roaming, which is multi-operator carrier network, we can move traffic from one operator to the other in the background. So ultimately, instead of building our own 14,000 base stations, we've got access to 14,000 base stations of Vodacom's. They claim to be South Africa's best network on reliability, so we are on SA's best network. MTN claim to be South Africa's best network on speed, and we are on MTN's best network. So technically, Cell C is on the best of the best, and that will show up in terms of the consumer experience on voice and data capability.
Yeah. So with that strategy in play then, I mean, what kind of growth are you envisioning for the brand? I mean, the assumption is that the market is well penetrated with many brand perceptions already pretty entrenched. So how much room are you seeing, to grow the brand in this marketplace?
I think there's significant headroom. I think if you take prepaid and postpaid as just normal business lines, I think there's opportunity there, and it will come from porting. It won't come from new human beings. So customers will switch because there will be a differentiation. But more importantly, when you look at the MVNO strategy, we are the home of MVNOs. We host almost all MVNOs, certainly all significant MVNOs, and it's a big strategic pillar for us. And we want to make sure that we retain that position, and we're going quite aggressively in that direction. So MVNO strategy is quite a big pillar for us. I think that's also differentiation. They have not been hugely successful in the past, barring one or two. But I think the time has come where this differentiation is now quite integrated into the core business. If you take a bank, for example, and they use this very intimately in terms of the information that they have on banking versus these behaviors on telco, and put those together, then you've got magic. You've got absolute gold that can happen. So if you're buying airtime on your banking app, and you happen to be on another network, and that network happens to be whoever they may be, the bank can do a lot with that information. And once they've got that and say, if you did the following, we'd give you this banking service for free, or reduced rates, or this benefit. And that level of integration will start yielding some amazing results, we believe.
You talk about integration, but it also speaks to this more collaborative approach to doing business, right? So how important are partnerships in your growth strategy?
That's a great question. I think fundamentally it's at the core of our strategic intent. We want to partner deeply and properly with the partners that we have. So we're happy to do rev share models. We're happy to really integrate properly. We want to show up uniquely. We don't need to own everything. We don't need to take the bulk of the revenue streams. We don't need to take the bulk of technology, capability, etc. But we really want to partner deeply and make sure that we leverage each other's capabilities, each other's power, and that we show up to the end consumer with a product that really delivers a world-class service and value for money, that it really strikes that absolute sweet note.
Yeah. Like you say, George, I mean, this really is the new approach to creating value, right? But partners or not, the landscape you're having to navigate is rife with complexity. So what's Cell C's approach to navigating regulatory challenges and industry disruptions while maintaining a focus on, this long-term value creation for stakeholders?
Yeah, it's a great question, because the regulatory framework will always evolve and it will change. I think for us, the approach will be, and has been so far, a proactive approach. So we would like to be involved in shaping what that looks like, so that we've got a really competitive landscape. There's a whole bunch of things on the go at the moment. For example, mobile termination rates. We've got asymmetry. So there's a slightly higher rate that is favorable to smaller players. That's intended to change. The real truth is that the smaller players haven't really benefited from this significantly, because they haven't achieved the market shares or the penetration levels that were expected. So we think that's something that needs to continue. Otherwise, you just strengthen the number one and number two players, and you really just enhance further what is entrenched as a duopoly, basically. So we think that if we are proactive with the regulator and clearly at least factually show what's really taking place, not everything will go in our favor. That's okay. We're not looking for favorable responses. We're looking for fair competition out there. And we believe that if that is the case, we'll be able to compete. There's enough space in the market for us.
Yeah. So looking ahead, my question twofold, right? What's the biggest challenge you anticipate the telecommunications industry facing? And if you successfully clear those hurdles, what opportunity are you looking forward to taking advantage of?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that the costs are outperforming revenue. And costs are outperforming revenue in the telco space largely as a result of infrastructure. The energy crisis has wreaked havoc in the industry. So networks that are running their own networks with the batteries and diesel, and then theft and vandalism and generators and so on. There's massive costs. These go into billions that have been invested into both MTN and Vodacom, as well as Telkom, I guess, networks. So we don't have that. We buy those technology services. We pay a rate for the quality of service that we get. And so we can, technically it's built into the price, sure. But if these things go up and down, we don't have that challenge to deal with. So I think the biggest challenge is that the costs are outperforming revenue. And given the fact that we've got a good cost structure model and that we CapEx light, we've kind of jumped over that hurdle, if you like. And now we focus on what customers really want. And I mean that sincerely. I have a dream that I wish I could take away all T's and C's, that the product should be so simple that customers just use it. You know, it's not this, but you can only do this on the weekend and on a Friday night, and this is in and that's out and so on. But it's a journey that we're on. We have to start somewhere, and we're going in that direction. But ultimately, that's what I'd like, that customers just love the product and just use the product. There's no complexity. There's no T's and C's. There's no catch. They just love it, and that's why they're with us. So that's ultimately where we'd like to get to.
As you and your customers alike. George, let's leave it there. Thanks so much for having joined us today. Jorge Mendes is Chief Executive Officer at Cell C.